We're getting there, y'all. Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili. Have to give some updates on this one. Yeah, Kayla did. She beat her. Exactly. I know some people think that Ketlin getting some big shots on Kayla in like one round was enough to look good, but I'm like, nah, Kayla still won that fight. Kayla still won it. But yeah, here we are, man. November 15th. It's right around the corner. Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili is going down. I just been, checking them out on IG. And, Valentina looks ready, man. Valentina's in there working her sparring. She's looking good. You know, the strikes are looking good. She's been mixing it up in the gym. Zhang Weili, I haven't really seen like a great deal of posts, but from what she's shown, I see that she's really been working on her strength and conditioning too. And, not having to make a rough weight cut this time around. I don't say we're rough weight cut because she's never really struggled to make 152. I say a comfortable weight cut. I think that, Zhang Weili is feeling a lot more confident and without having to cut down so much more weight. I think, she's focused on technique and, she's focused more on, the technical side than having to worry about diet and everything. So that could be a definite danger for Valentina going into this fight. Valentina, we all know she's got the IQ. She's a lot more experience as a champion. And, she's been here time and time again. So there's a lot of givens on her side. But, whenever Zhang Weili comes in, anything can happen, because we can't count Zhang Weili out as a fighter that is stuck in one gear herself. Zhang Weili's been acquiring tools over the years. She's been getting way better, a lot smarter in her choices. And she kind of has that like underrated intelligence. Sometimes I think a lot of people just see her smiling all the time and think, she's just a fighter that, doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like it seems like some people kind of get caught up in just seeing her do one thing, but I see Zhang Weili changing. I see her changing and evolving as a fighter, and her evolution. It could be a big threat to Valentina here because number one, you got the you got the possible strength and power on her side in this fight, and with a lack of the weight having to be cut, she could come in a little bit faster and a little bit stronger in this fight. So I'm sure that there's going to be a situation in this one where Zhang Weili's going to have to dig deep, and she's going to have to go in there and adapt to what Valentina's doing. I'm sure she's watching how Grasso did it, and all these other fighters didn't do it. But that's the question. That's the question. That's why we just got to see this fight now. We just got to see it. I see Zhang Weili maybe being able to take a hit better at this weight too, because that's another thing we got to look at. Like when Valentina, she hits a lot of girls, they have this tendency to go on a back foot and not want to enter because he hits you with just enough power to make you think about it. Sometimes getting hit with a big shot like Rose did is so quick you didn't even know it came. You see, Zhang Weili was trying to still get up and fight, or you know what I mean? Like she still tried to get up and fight because she didn't know what happened. But if Valentina hits you with just enough, kind of like she was doing against Manon Fiore, with her jab and right hook, it's kind of discouraging. Like Valentina has that discouraging type of power, So number one, Zhang Weili's got to find a way to get around that and not be on the outside just eating these blunt shots to the face all night. She's got to be in there looking for that opening and maybe even, like I said, take Valentina off balance as far as like pushing her back like Grasso did and setting little traps, forcing Valentina to fight. You got to force Valentina to fight sometimes. Valentina, she come in there to teach. Valentina, that's what you got to say about Valentina's style. Like Valentina, she comes in there to teach and educate your butt. You come in there talking mess, you think you're better than her. She'll be all right, I'm gonna show you why you're not better. And then she hits you with one shot, take you down. lay on you, um, beat you up with the jab, some simple shots. Valentina's in there and instructs you, but hopefully it makes you better in the next fight. Whether it was Manon Fior, right? I'm being honest, took Manon, to striking school with the jab and the right hook. Manon had to go back and work at TriStar, start working on boxing. That's why I said you have to do that. It's just a fact. Go back to the third Grasso fight. She went back to wrestling. She said, "This is how you wrestle, Grasso." So just so many different elements as part of Valentina's game where she's set as a very solid technician, but Zhang Weili can't come in there like that. She got to come in there with that ability to adapt like she always does and fight. Don't show the game plan, but just kind of like blend in with Valentina. Like, it's kind of weird how Zhang Weili, she knows how to adapt. That's the difference between like Zhang Weili's adapting, her overall adapting versus like, some fighters you can actually see them switch gears. You don't really see Zhang Weili switch gears. It just kind of comes into motion just naturally, But we'll see how that works out, man. I'm just saying, like, yeah, Brian, I'm not having to cut 10 pounds is going to be, I think it's going to be it could be in favor of Zhang Weili in this fight. Might carry the power, strength, cardio might be better, all of that. Sergio said Valentina isn't a big 125, so I don't think that matters. Oh, Brian said, man, I just don't see Zhang Weili beating her with her style. Weili has a tendency to get frustrated during a fight. Nobody going to frustrate a puncher like a fight that you can't hit. Yeah. If you can't hit somebody, yeah, that's going to be a problem. Sergio says Zhang isn't big enough, in my opinion, but she doesn't have to be against Valentina. I'm not sure if size really comes into play in this fight, because I think strength, of course, does. I think when we see these two face off, we're gonna see more of a similar size. I think it more comes down to just who is at this weight and who handles this weight better. Who knows how to handle the physical size better in this type of fight. I think we look at the other type of opponents and the style of Zhang Weili, I think other girls could be a problem for, That's why I'm still not sure if Zhang Weili wants to stay at 150, 125. I'm really anticipating to see like I really have to say I'm really looking forward to seeing how she looks at the weigh-in too and when they face off, Sergio said, who do you think will wrestle more, Valentina or Zhang Weili? I think Zhang Weili might attempt to wrestle more in this fight. I think Valentina will counter wrestle, of course, if Zhang Weili tries to wrestle more here, because I think the minute Valentina's striking comes into play and that jab starts coming out, as soon as that jab starts hitting the face, I'm telling you, Zhang Weili would probably turn into the wrestler here. And then that's when counter wrestling comes from Valentina's side. Because that's what I was saying about Manon going in their fight. Like, she needed to be more of a wrestler in that fight, period. Don't let the striking of Valentina discourage you and turn you into a wrestler. Like, come up with your own game plan and use your size and strength against her. And that's the thing about Weili going into this fight. She lacks that size and strength of Manon. Like, it would be wiser for, Zhang Weili to have more of a speed and power style that could disrupt Valentina's rhythm. Take some elements from Grasso, but I don't really think you can. I don't think Zhang Weili is like big enough to just lock up with Valentina round after round. I think Manon was, but I don't think Zhang Weili has that natural strength that could do that for 5 rounds. Because eventually Valentina, she gonna wear on you too. Valentina's gonna wear on you. I think Zhang Weili might be wrestling more because Valentina, makes her wrestle with the experience and striking overall. What's going on, Robot Chicken? What's up? He says, "Salute the combo and addict, the most objective and entertaining WMMA outlets. Hit the like." Appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, we here, man. We are here, and we just talking about this fight. I'm gonna just try to give the real facts that I see between Valentina and Zhang Weili. I like both fighters. I like both fighters a lot, and I think this is gonna be a good fight. And yeah, if you want an honest opinion, I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give it to you. Whether I'm telling you what I think is gonna happen on the bullet side or Magnum side. Like honestly, I think Zhang Weili, her right hand, if it touches Valentina's chin, could change the course of the fight. You know, um, I mean, I've seen girls in the past hit Valentina, not much power on it. Jennifer Maya had a little sting. Um, who else is there? Of course, Grasso, she had some sting on her punches because she's a natural boxer. We saw the reaction there, but I think that I think Zhang Weili has enough natural power that if she could connect on Valentina's chin, she could turn the fight around easy. You know, I think when it comes to big power punches landed in here, that's gonna have to be her game plan at some point to get Valentina's respect. But there's got to be a game plan on getting on the inside. There's got to be a game plan on getting on the inside. I know if Zhang Wei Li, one thing I was thinking too is like if she gets Valentina to throw more body kicks, she can maybe catch a couple of them body kicks and get Valentina off balance to maybe take her down and try to snake for the back early. And that's another thing too, man. Like there's one scenario that I think would favor Zhang Wei Li is getting Valentina down to one knee against the cage where she can start landing ground and pound, punches, you know, because over the years, like you see Zhang Wei Li's ground and pound, um, you see it evolve, and them shots look like they hurt. Those shots look like they hurt. That's what I'm saying. Like Zhang Wei Li's her side's got to be fight. It's got to be educated fight, but fight. You know, um, don't try to play chess too much with Valentina. I say that about every fighter though, man. Like when they fight Valentina, don't play chess with Valentina, man. Like do not play chess with her. Manon's a good striker, but you in there with the proven striker. You don't play their game. Tiago said, I think Valentina's about to be at her best. She could, yeah. Yeah. I could see that too. I could see that too. I think Valentina's come too far to just not be on her game, especially number one, she knows what's riding on this fight. She knows that Zhang Wei Li wants to make a name off of her. She knows that the UFC possibly wants her out of there at some point. Like Valentina don't get a lot of love like that. She knows that this could be one of those fights that could make her stock go down. She knows a lot of people are calling her old now, which I don't. I still think Valentina's I think she's aging gracefully when it comes to fighting. Of course, as the body gets older, you change styles, but Valentina's never really showed me that she's like this fighter that's just worn out. She fights smarter as you get older, and she always has like an answer just about. Of course, there's mistakes, times change, nobody's saying you won't lose. This is MMA, right? This ain't boxing. This is MMA. In MMA, you're gonna have to fight everybody. There's no ducking in this sport, and there's way too many weapons, at your disposal to go undefeated. So that's how I see it, man. Valentina's gonna be at her best. I expect Wei Li to be at her best. I expect her to be at her best. Robot said, "Who do you got, Islam or JDM?" I'm kind of going for JDM, but I'm gonna kind of go for JDM in this one. But I think Islam, really, I really think he might pull this one off. Brian said, "I think Whaley's fast enough to hit Valentina, but not a bunch. Arms too short, and Valentina's reflexes are too sharp. As long as Valentina doesn't get dragged in a war in the pocket, right? Yeah, I think outside is Valentina all the way. Mid range could get interesting. Mid range could get interesting because If Weili does load up a couple of times, let it be one shot that lands. To be said, a significant part of me feels like Weili is going to do way better than anticipated and ruin Silva's title shot. Maybe she won't, man. Maybe she won't. I mean, look, if Weili wins, Silva should still get her title shot, right? But it kind of lacks the flair that the Bullet versus Silva could happen, right? I mean, that matchup, right? Now that matchup would, I guess Weili Silva has a little ting to it too, because Weili's in a new division, and we're going to see if she can defend. Robot said Weili catches Val with a supreme shot if she doesn't take Weili seriously. Tiago said, and they are basically the same age. Yeah, they really are. Yeah, Val's 37, Weili's 36. So yeah. Tiago said, do Manon and Natalyia need to fight? Good question. Let me see. Natalyia Silva wants to wait for the title shot. She really wants to wait for that title shot. Manon just defeated Jasmine. Before anybody gets a rematch, to me, you got to at least win 2 or 3 fights in good fashion against credible opponents. So before Manon could even challenge for a belt, I would say she need to get a win against another credible opponent. Because Jasmine, that was a good win to wake us up and say, okay, yeah, like Jasmine's not in her realm, but you got to go in there and beat some girls again that will make you better and just get them out of the way to prove that you're ready for the belt again. So as I tally up the points, Tiago, I hate to say need to fight like it's something that we're really missing, but they could fight. The longer it goes out, I think they could fight, because this fight happens in November, right? The title fight's in November. Natalyia, let me see. Let me look at the I mean, I wouldn't turn the fight down. I really wouldn't turn the fight down. I'm trying to look at what Natalyia Silva's inactivity is right now, because yeah, she might need that fight now. Because Aaron is fighting Tracy Cortez. Her last fight was in May, so it's been about 5 months now. Manon just fought in October. I don't know, man. Natalyia might need to fight sooner, because that'll be about 10 months since she's been off. Because Manon might wait 3 or 5 months, and that'll be another 10 months for Natalyia Silva. So I really won't say it needs to be a fight that needs to happen, Tiago, but it could happen. Like, I would watch it. I think, yeah, I think that, Natalyia definitely needs another fight, the longer she waits here. I think this is a fight that, she could do, to stay busy. But I really don't think it would need to happen more from Manon's side, I think, because, she's coming back after, the loss to the champion. I think for Natalyia, she doesn't really need that fight. Right, right. To be said, she made it clear, like, yeah, she's made it clear that she's not fighting unless it's for the belt. But I think she's already kind of made it clear that she is the next contender too. So if Manon wanted that fight, I would say it would do her more. It would be doing her more justice, because she would be getting that contender out of the way and proving she's better and she's ready. But Natalyia, to me, doesn't really need anybody else right now. Tiago said Natalya's win against Grasso was not very impressive. That was a good fight. That was a good fight, though. I liked it. I thought it was impressive on Natalya's side, as far as her just, beating the former champion up. Grasso, Grasso is just, to me, Grasso just looked drained too in that fight, like mentally drained. Like, I'm not sure if Grasso really is ready to fight, like a title contender, title eliminator, anything like that for a while. I think she needs to kind of fight down herself, though. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, this Weili fight, Valentina fight, I think this is gonna be good, man. I will be live for it. I'll definitely be live for it. What's been going on the Dakota side though, man? We gonna have to talk about some Dakota again over here because I really would like to see Dakota, you know, clean up wherever she need to do. I didn't even talk about Viviane Arujo and Ariane Lipsky. I forgot they're over at PFL now. Did y'all know that? Tiago, did you know about that, man? Viviane Arujo and Ariane Lipsky are PFL now. Tiago said, "Who you got winning early pick? Oh, for this championship fight. I'm gonna lean towards the Bullet. I'm gonna lean towards the Bullet right now. The only time I picked against the Bullet was against Manon. Oh man, I ain't picked against Valentina that time, yeah, but I ain't picked against Valentina since at bantamweight, really. And that was being, I think some of those are more fan picks to me back then. Like I didn't even have the channel up back then, but it was just like fan picks, But I got to look into it. I'm like, I think Valentina's chances are, just too solid against these other girls. But yeah, as time goes on, it's hard to pick against Valentina here. I really do think it's hard to pick against Valentina in this fight. I'm not saying Weili can't win, but just an early pick right now, I would have to say is Valentina.